Vulnerabilities. All right, so this webinar is focused on trending vulnerabilities in Internet of Things. And basically, the Internet of Things, otherwise known as IoT, refers to the billions of physical devices around the world that are now connected to the Internet, all collecting and sharing data at the same time. So basically connecting all these devices and objects, adding sensors to them adds a level of digital intelligence to these devices that would otherwise enable them to communicate in real time data and information. So example of IoT devices are our smart watches, our smart TVs, our smartphones, you know, all these electronic devices that we don't need to connect manually or with a cable. Via the internet, we can actually use them to communicate, collect data all in real time. I know some of us are aware of some devices which we can talk to in our homes, and they actually perform some tasks for us, such as play music, turn up the lights, you know, switch off the lights, you know, shut the windows, open the doors for us, just in real time. And all of these devices are connected to the internet. So that's what qualifies them as IoT devices. All right, so our guest speaker will be joining us shortly. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, kindly note them down, or you can type them in the chat box. So while the conversation is going on, we are not interrupting. Or if you want to speak, you can simply raise up your hands. So as soon as the speaker is done, we can attend to your questions and concerns. But if you have any general inquiries about Cybersecurity Challenge Nigeria, kindly send us an email to info@cysec.ng, and we'll be available to take up all your inquiries and concerns. All right, just to confirm, Mr. Emeka, are you with us? Okay. Mr. Emeka, are you with us now? Are you ready?
I tell people this all the time.
All right. So in the meantime, we have our CYSEC NG National Hackathon and Cybersecurity Conference coming up in the month of May. Who else is excited? Because definitely I'm super excited, and this is not restricted only to InfoSec enthusiasts or professionals. It's all for every one of us. It's a community of cybersecurity enthusiasts, newbies, tech-related enthusiasts and professionals, even people who are creatives, you know, it's for students, it's for everyone generally. It's even for government agency workers and the rest of them. So do well if you are in the city of Abuja, or if you can join us virtually, because you don't want to miss out on any part of this. So do well to join us physically if you can make it to the venue, or you join us online. The dates of the conference is May 25th and 26th this year. And okay, I don't want to spill too much tea, but you should expect something really hot. Okay, so Mr. Emeka, are you with us now? All right, so generally I've spoken on what Internet of Things is. Is there anyone who can give us their own perspective to what it is? Because it's quite it's not really clear to the ordinary eyes, being that in Nigeria, we haven't really delved deep into Internet of Things, though I'm aware there are certain estates which exist and they depend solely on this technology. Like everything from the entrance of your home to your bed, everything is connected to the internet and they work in real time. So does any of us here have an experience with such or have an idea of how things like that work? Who will be willing to go first? Okay, you can also send in the chat box. You can actually type in what you think. Is there anyone who wants to try? Who has had an experience or have an idea? It's also very done. Okay, so in the absence of none, are we aware that a light bulb can actually be switched on using a smartphone app? Amazing, right? And then this can also be connected to our children's devices like toys and the rest of them. And you can actually use your voice instead of moving around your house to like operate all your devices at the same time. And all these things work and are interconnected. Okay, we have a comment in the chat box. Oh, amazing, amazing. All right, Emmanuel says interconnection of devices and the ability to function seamlessly with little or no human input. Nice. Victor says it is an application or implementation of connected devices to automate everyday living, our everyday life in the home, in the industry, in our workplace. Amazing, Victor. Kola Wale says the Internet of Things, or IoT, is a system of interrelated computing devices, mechanical and digital machines. Okay, so do we think that there are any vulnerabilities associated with actually having these devices interconnected with little or no human intervention? Do you think is a problem? And what do you think is the problem associated with that? I mean, it's amazing when we don't have to physically have to do anything and we have things working for us either by command or by clicking on a simple button or by just leaving things to run pre-programmed. So what do we think? Is there any vulnerability and what is the potential vulnerability? Okay, Mr. Abdul Karim says, yes, there is. Data breaches, nice. Because even with human intervention, we have still not been able to figure out how to avoid data breaches 100%, let alone when everything is automated. It means once someone has access to one device, they have access to all the devices. They have access to your entire home, just one device, because everything is interconnected, right? Okay, it is, someone says it is prone to mistakes and backdoor. Amazing. About mistakes, I mean, it's, they're all connected, pre-programmed. I think the idea is to avoid human error. So do you really think it's prone to mistakes? Wow, hacking. I was expecting that. Okay, it's prone to hacking, but hacking, in what sense? Like, what do you think is wrong? Or what do you think we can potentially lose if they hack into the systems? To what extent? Okay, Mr. Victor says, yes, vulnerabilities might exist in the way its communications is implemented. Amazing. Okay, so none of us want to speak. Is everyone in agreement with these? Do you think there's totally nothing wrong with having IoT devices?
Okay, can I speak?
Yes, yes, Mr. Victor, you can.
Okay, so I think the more we embrace applications, IoTs into our day-to-day life, I think it leaves us vulnerable because for one, we don't know how these functionalities are implemented. And we all know that these functionalities, when they're not properly implemented, might leave us vulnerable and we can get hacked, right? So I believe there are vulnerabilities and IoTs are of serious concern.
Okay, nice one there, Victor. Mr. Abdul Karim said the device can backfire. I mean, since machines can wear out or suddenly fail, absolutely unexpectedly, they could just fail you and everything is connected. Imagine it's a home and all your living appliances are connected, even your door. And you get home, maybe you're coming back from work and everything has shut down. You can't even access your home. To be bad, maybe you can't even turn on your TV manually. You can't do anything. You may not even be able to cook in your home. But that will be on a rare occasion. I don't think that will happen as often as possible. I thought someone would tell me that we don't have total control. And if you don't have control, sometimes it may be difficult to actually predict or actually work with these devices because you're not the manufacturer. Sometimes we're not even the programmers, right? We're just the end users. We have the money, we can afford it. And why not? It makes life easier. And we do not actually have total control. So what if the owners of these devices actually change their mind? What if they actually the manufacturers actually sell their companies to someone else and those people have total control of your home? They see everything that's happening. They have every information about you entirely.
Hello. Okay, so I would just want to chip in something. Internet of Things. When we talk about Internet of Things, we talk about a lot of devices, gadgets that have primarily an IP address for remote communication without the need of a physical cable or without the need of a physical button, meaning you can actually control any electronic device, any digital device remotely by simply assigning, say, an IP address to it. So in the simplest terms, the Internet of Things is how we describe the digitally connected universe of every physical device. These devices are embedded with internet connectivity, sensors, and other hardwares that can allow communication and control via the web. That is even the most important part of it, ability to control these devices via the web. So that brings us to the question of what simply can IoT do for us? IoT simply makes our dumb devices to be smarter by giving them the ability to send data over the internet, allowing the device to communicate with people and other IoT embedded things. The connected smart home is a good example. These days, what the real estate industry is advertising is more of the smart home, is more of the connected home. How can they automate every device within a building remotely, from the curtains to the fans, to the AC, to the fridge, to the microwave? How can all of this be controlled remotely? That is where smart homes come into the picture. So it has moved a step further from smart devices, now moving into smart homes. So the connected smart home is a good example of IoT in action. Internet-enabled thermostats, doorbells, smoke detectors, security alarms, auto detectors, all of this come into this space of IoT devices. And the good thing about it is it's making life easy for mankind. It's making automation pretty awesome. You don't physically need to be somewhere for you to disengage. So while we are trying to save on green energy, these are now better ways to regulate, better ways to control what we do with our devices, how we consume power. In fact, you can even connect all of this to Alexa, and Alexa can do all of this for you. So whether you are home or you're not, Alexa can automate using algorithms to actually turn off, turn on whatever devices so as to save energy for you. So far from being restricted to just the home, Internet of Things can also be found in array of devices, industries, and settings. Okay, so it can range from smart blackboards in school. When we started years back, we are talking about chalkboard, blackboard, and every Friday you get to be assigned, either you or a class rep or a particular class, you are assigned the responsibility of darkening your board. Today, things have changed. Digital boards are now being used where you can even touch, more like they have touch sensors. Even moving on to our laptops, touchscreen laptops are now taking over the space. Our mobile devices started with buttons, and over time, there's this technological evolvement where devices started using touch screens. And you all can agree with me that that is actually one of the major key factors that pushed a popular brand, BlackBerry, out of the market. Why? They didn't switch on time. Now, IoT, how does IoT work? Okay, so in a nutshell, IoT works in a couple of ways. Devices have hardwares like sensors. For example, they collect data. The data collected by these sensors are shared via the cloud and integrated software. So first of all, you have a device. Next, you need to have a sensor. The sensor can be a timer, it can be a thermostat, it can be anything, something that can actually collect data. After the device collects the data through the sensor, it has to transmit this data over the internet. So the software that analyzes and transmits the data to users via an app or a website is also another key part of this conversation. Okay, so with this little explanation, I believe I've been able to make a bit clearer, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. And thanks for listening.
All right. Thank you very much for your contribution. Mr. Adeyemo, right? I hope I got it right. Yes, you can speak now. Adeyemo.
Thank you very much. My name is Adeyemo Toluwashe. I think I joined a little bit late, and I'm so glad to. In fact, I just came across this on the Facebook about 10 minutes ago. I'm joining from Passport, UK Passport, and it's so interesting that I'm writing my project on the importance and of IoT, my master's degree project on importance of IoT and the vulnerabilities. I'm so glad to listen to this webinar. In fact, it's just God directed me to this page. I must tell you. Right now I'm on the train. I'm going to work, but I think I will catch more better than I'll catch up with you. I would like to work with you guys. Just on my projects on how to go, about it. Although I'm a network person, I'm doing my master's in computer networks and administration, and I'm new to the IoT environment, but I think I know a bit about it. When we're talking about vulnerabilities, actually, when we're talking about IoT is communication of devices between man, hardware, software, and all that. I'm just giving a brief scratch on it. And when we're talking about vulnerabilities, we know the challenges we have about cyber crimes these days and all that. And especially when we are talking about country specifications, we are talking about sorry to say, we are talking about Nigeria where we have power issues. When we are talking about IT, the first thing to consider is the power. You can be denied access. You can own a big house. And if there's a little, power outage, everything about it goes down. So those are the first parts. This can be a challenge to IoT. This is the major challenge to IoT in the part of the country where I'm coming from, actually, probably Africa to specific. Unlike those places where you have everything connected to the, to power, and the power is stable, in a year you won't have a power outage. That is where IoT, really works. So according to me, the first challenge I think we'll have in the part of the country or in the part of the continent where I actually come from is power issues. Then we can now be looking at other things like human activities, fishing, things like that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You talk about just in time. I mean, right when you were writing a piece on IoT, well, we're pleased to actually work with you subsequently. You can send us an email via our email platform, info@cysec.ng, or you can contact us on WhatsApp, whichever method will be most convenient.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I would indulge every one of us. If you're not speaking at the moment, kindly ensure that your microphone is off. Okay, so Mr. Emeka, yes, so he'll be taking us through certain vulnerabilities in IoT. Mr. Emeka, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you. Good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
yes, absolutely, we can hear you.
Okay, I was supposed to take the topic IoT and the vulnerabilities in IoT. First thing first, I wanted to say thank you for this opportunity to share the little I know with regards to this topic, which is IoT. So when I was told I was going to present on this, I kind of made some slides with regards to teaching this topic. So I don't know if there's any way I could share those slides so that everybody could maybe have a conceptualization of what we want to learn on this by the course of this.
Yes,
So,
you can share your screen actually.
Okay, so let me share my screen. So can everybody see my screen?
Yes. Okay, it's coming up. Yes.
You can see my screen, right?
Yes,
Yes.
we can say it. Yes.
So the topic is trending vulnerabilities in Internet of Things, which is IoT. So basically, okay, let me start by introducing myself. So this is me. My name is Izopara Emeka Michael. These are some little things about me. I'm a sociable techie that loves to solve problems. I'm a junior cybersecurity personnel. I'm a cloud DevOps engineer. When I'm not in front of my computer, I'm having some good time with my friends. And then I love traveling, swimming, video games, football, blah, blah, blah. In a nutshell, I'm just a regular guy that is taking life one step at a time. And in the course, on the journey of this, I'm trying to discover my best self. I said, oh, I just sounded like a philosopher. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm not actually sorry about that. So this is like my profile, my GitHub, my TryAcme profile, and some of the projects that I've done by the course of this. And these are the things I've been able to do with respect to time. So let's dive into the takeaways. So the takeaways are going to be Internet of Things, the definition and the components, the vulnerabilities in Internet of Things. Then there's a current trending vulnerability known as Azera solution. If you go to TV, the TVs might you'll see some of these vulnerabilities. I also stated their code here. So by the course of this whole presentation, you'll be able to see some of the things that I've been able to find out with regards to vulnerability. Now, what does this exploitation mean, and how can they affect workflow? Like when you exploit those vulnerabilities, how would it affect the people that are involved in the affected device and the rest of them? Then I gave some mitigation, that's the ways to curb these exploitations or reduce the extent at which it can be affected, and then the conclusion and summary, and then my thank you. So let's move to the definition of Internet of Things. So Internet of Things, what's the definition? Internet of Things is an aspect of the internet that unites physical objects with the goal of sharing data. So basically what it's about is just physical things, like every other thing that you have not thought can connect to the internet would be able to connect to the internet. An example, you can have your utensils that's being used to eat. It could be as that. You can use those kind of things to connect to the internet. They could share data. Recently, I was reading an article about a fork that you could, when you are using it to eat, if you are eating too fast, the fork tells you that you are eating too fast, that you need to slow down the rest of the day. So by virtue of this, I'll give you an illustration of what I think IoT is. Now, from research that I've been able to make, these are the applications of IoT. Now, the advent of IoT is going to come about connecting physical things together. So an example, let's give you an illustration. Let's say you're leaving your house and you're going to your office and you're wearing a wearable. A wearable could be a wristwatch from Apple or from Android wristwatch or the rest of them, and you're putting them on your wrist. That wearable could detect your temperature. By detecting your temperature, it sends that information to a cloud platform that receives that information and then sends your temperature to your office AC, telling your office AC that this is your temperature. So your office AC now regulates itself so that when you get to your office, the temperature within your office can be good enough for you to be comfortable and the rest of them. That's actually some of the applications of IoT. That's like one out of the numerous things that you can think of that can possibly happen. So I also said that these physical devices leverages on interconnectivity models. For example, Wi-Fi models. They use metric models like temperature and pressure. I heard a colleague of mine saying something about sensors. Yeah, sensors are superb. That's actually one of the criteria for IoT, because there's need for sensors to convert those analog signals to digital signals and then send them out to the data server or the rest of them. Yeah, they can include wearables, cars, refrigerators, MRI, CT, X-rays, ultrasound, you name it. Anything you can actually think of can actually be involved in IoT. So what are the merits of IoT? There's technology optimization. You can optimize everything you have around you. You can enhance data collection. Now, by enhancing data collection means you can get a lot of data from IoT. I think there was an article I was reading that said the amount of data that has been accumulated over time is, I think, 115 zettabytes. And in 2025, it's going to be 10, sorry, it's going to be times 10 of that. That's 2 zettabytes, then it's going to be times 10 of that in the future, that's by 2025. So these things, these technologies are things that are going to drive it. Now, what are the demerits of it? I started my demerits on saying that there's going to be security bridges. IoT is going to bring about a lot of security bridges because most of the software that run IoT are not that secure. And there will be lack of privacy because of the software that they are not secured. The privacy of IoT is kind of going to be altered in a lot of ways, and then it increases complexity. The complexity of understanding IoT is also a demerit to this technology. Now, what are the business implementation of IoT? You can implement IoT in territory monitoring, in fitness sphere, in toys, like basic utensils, in smart homes, in smart cities. This is we talk about smart homes and smart cities. IoT is the technology that will drive that. Industrial implementation, example in cars, we hear about self-driving cars, those things are IoT, those things are the technology that drives IoT, then customer appliance, and then the health sector. Now, I want to be focusing on the health sector because that's where I discovered the vulnerability, or I made research on the vulnerabilities that I got. So I'm going to be focusing on that. So I said health sector, and I said for the purpose of this presentation, we will focus on the health sector of vulnerability. Now, what are vulnerabilities? I have to explain vulnerabilities because some persons that might be here might not really understand what the vulnerability are. Let's say the people are they are not cyber security personnel or something. So a vulnerability is a weakness or a flaw in a software design that gives a threat actor unauthorized access to a device in order to steal sensitive information, install malware, and carry out actions that will be detrimental to the device user. So that's basically what the vulnerability is. It's just like something that's in your device or in your software that can enable somebody to hack into your system and perform things that will be detrimental to you, like steal your information, use your credit card, or something, just something of sort. That's what the vulnerability is. Now, the trend of vulnerabilities that we'll be discussed in this session will be focused on the health sector. I've stated that before. And I said on the 24th of March 2022, there's a lab. They're known as Azera lab. It's a threat intelligence and research lab. They released a report on the vulnerability known as the Access 7. Now, 24th of March is like 7 days ago, that's like last week Thursday. They released a report about the vulnerability known as Access 7. Now, what does Access 7 mean? Access 7 has been identified as 7 vulnerabilities affecting the PTC Azera agent. Now, what is PTC? PTC is a company that bought Azera. Azera is a software that is used to run remote access on IoT devices. You can use Azera solutions to access an IoT device and also run remote and configure it, run some services on it using Azera. So on the 24th of March 2022, Azera Lab discovered a particular vulnerability. I'm going to proceed by telling you how the whole thing went on the process. So, and due to the fact that we are supposed to be discussing the trend of vulnerabilities, that was why I had to maybe go this system. I hope it's not bad. I did that. Sorry. Hello. Can anybody hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now, what is Azera? The Azera solution is a software that enables devices to establish connectivity to remotely monitor, manage, and service a wide range of connected machines, sensors, and devices. From the start, that's on statistics. This software can be found majorly in the health sector. Hence, its impact is high in this sector. Now, this is like a pictorial representation of how people use Azera. Azera comprises of 3 components. It comprises the platform, it comprises the agent, and also the asset. Now, the agent is like the person that connects to the Azera server in order for it to be able to run configuration or remote access and the rest of them. Yeah, and the agent, depending on the configuration, it can also be an asset. You understand? Then the platform is like the portal, or more or less like the server that handles the Azera solution. So I don't really want to I don't really want to dwell on that, but just have at the back of mind that Azera helps you to remotely access IoT devices. So that's like a software that is there. So these are the analysis and findings of the vulnerability that was discovered by Azera, which is the company that discovered the vulnerability. Now, the vulnerability carried with their CVE ID. Now, the CVE is like common vulnerability exposure. It's more or less like a MITRE organization that discovers vulnerabilities and exposes them and tell people that these vulnerabilities are present. This is the vulnerability that's present. This is the core of the vulnerability. If you look at the right-hand side of my slide, you see a CVSS score. Now, the CVSS is more or less like the common vulnerability scoring system. It scores vulnerability based off the criticality of the vulnerability. How critical is vulnerability? The vulnerability is between 9 to 10, because on a scale of 0 to 10, so it's between 9 to 10, that means it's very, very critical. The criticality is like very high. That means you can do a lot of things or a lot of harm if you use that vulnerability, if you exploit it. Between 7 to 8, I think between 7 to 8.9 is a high vulnerability. You can do more. You can do more, but you cannot do as much as when it's 9 to 10. So these are the CVE and their ID. If you Google this, you will see these vulnerabilities on the CVE MITRE organization website. You will see it there, and then you will see what they actually imply, what is actually causing those things, and how they can exploit them. You see a lot of reference materials on how you can go about this, how you can go about exploitation of these vulnerabilities. So I heard somebody saying something about doing research on IoT. This can also be a very good source of material, a source of a very good source where you can get a lot of information on what to write about and the rest of them. So the CV 2022, 25, 2022, 9, these things are just codes. 2022 means that it's in this year, 2022, that it was discovered. These are the description of it. The Azera XBit.exe executable agent allows for unrestricted file system read access via a directory transversal on the web server. Now, what is the impact? The impact is it's going to cause information disclosure. The information disclosure is going to bring about people getting to know private stuff about people in the hospital, and that's not good. When a threat actor knows much, like one of the ways somebody excels in hacking a device is how much the person knows about that device. So when a threat actor knows much about something, they can exploit that information. So information disclosure can also be a threat if they are given to people that would malhandle this information. Now, the next one is talking about how you can bring about uneducated attacker via undocumented command. You can send command to this executable using an attacker to send an unauthenticated command using the executable. And what is the impact? The impact can bring about DOS. DOS means denial of service. And what does denial of service mean? It means that there will not be services. I mean, those people that are in the health sector will not be able to offer service to people that anytime this vulnerability is exploited, things like that can happen. The next two, the impact of it is RC. RC means remote code execution. The person can execute code from anywhere they are. They can also execute commands from anywhere they are. When somebody can execute command on a system, that means the person can do a lot of things or a lot of damage to that system. You can change the configuration of the system, you can migrate, you can do port forwarding, you can move from that system to other places that are not affected and the rest of them. So a lot of things can actually come out from that. Then the next one, the impact is on information disclosure. The next one too, the impact is on RC, is remote code execution. The next one too, the impact is DOS. So if you notice the CVSS score of these vulnerabilities, the RC is carried the highest because it means that it can do a lot by the RCE. The RCE is like 9.8. This is on a scale of 0 to 10. So if it's 9.8, that means the person can do a lot of harm with these vulnerabilities. So my next slide talks about how can exploiting these vulnerabilities affect workflow in, let's say, a hospital that is using an IoT device, let's say an MRI, an ECG, an X-ray, or something like that. Now, an attacker from the first vulnerability, which is the CV 2022-2529-249, an attacker may gain read access to the affected device file system. The affected device, being an imaging or lab device, contains sensitive information such as protected health information or diagnosis results of a group of patients. The attacker could then profit from their findings by selling it on the black market or demanding a ransom not to do so. So this is how an attacker can benefit from exploiting that vulnerability. Now, the next one, which is CV 2022-2520. If you notice, these two are the same colors because of their CVSS score. Their CVSS score is not that high compared to the last one. The last one is red, meaning that the CVSS score is quite high. Now, an attacker with the second one, which is CV is 2022-25250. An attacker might decide to repeatedly shut down the agent on a device, preventing it from accepting remote service when required. After a period of time, this could prevent the hospital from giving therapy or diagnosing patients. Now, the result of this is that DOS, which is denial of service. It's going to bring about denial of service. It's going to cause the hospital not to be able to give service because of somebody was able to exploit this vulnerability. So that's how it compounds and affects them in the long run. Now, the last one, which is a very critical vulnerability and brings about RCE, which is remote code execution. Now, the password used for a VNC connection is the same across all models or model family for a vendor. Hence, given that an attacker obtained this password, they are now able to use it with any instance of this device. In addition to this consequence, the VNC connection would allow an attacker to alter information that the person can change the configuration of the system and the rest of them, which might be followed by mistreatment or denial of care. So by changing the configuration, the person can also gain read access and also write access. So when the person gains write access to those information, the person can change the prescription as supposed to give to a patient. So that might affect that patient and affect them in the long run. So it's kind of critical. It can also lead to the death of that patient and the rest of them. So these are things that can possibly happen by an attacker. These are just maybe some things that was able to be captured like this. So what is the mitigation and recommendation? Like, how can you reduce your risk in making these things happen to you? Now, the first thing is you need to upgrade your Azera agent version and the build number. I gave the version and the build number of the Azera agent I'm supposed to upgrade it to. And I also gave a link to how you can do this, or what an article you could read that could help you achieve this. Yeah, a link is given on this slide. Then the second one, I was able to highlight it. I said configure Azera agent and ADS service to only listen on the local host interface of this. So this one has to do with the configuration of the agent or the Azera software. So there's also a link on how you can do that. It's here too, so you can read this article. And in case where your host is using an operating system of Windows, configure your local host to be this. I also gave some links on this one on how you can go about that. Then I think the last three, or the three, they are amongst the four, three of them are have to do with configuration of it, and most of the how you can go about that is written on this article. So, like I said, it's referred to PCC knowledge article, refer to PCC knowledge article. You can read this article and you get some things from there. So, the conclusion and the summary from what I've explained so far. Software components implement remote service capability and are interesting targets for cyber attackers, especially when they are widely adopted. Now, when a particular software is widely adopted, they become juiced, or they become more for a lack of better term, they become a major target for cyber attackers. Yeah, because they tend to allow for complete control of affected devices. Now, Vedera's lab identified self-vulnerability in a remote service solution called Azera, currently owned by PCC. PCC is people that own Azera. These vulnerabilities allow hackers to compromise affected devices, which are represented in several industries and their verticals. Verticals also means that it will be present in financial, in the financial sector and other sectors too. So this research further proves that vulnerabilities in supply chain components tend to become widely spread and difficult to eradicate. So I think that will be all. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Nzeoba Emeka Michael. Thank you very much.
Amazing, amazing and insightful presentation, Mr. Emeka. Now it's the interesting part, the time for questions. Questions. If you want to speak, kindly raise up your hands and then you'll be given the opportunity to speak. Then if you don't, you can type it in the chat box and we'll read it out, and Mr. Emeka or anyone else with an answer can actually contribute to that. Anyone with any questions regarding the presentation or regarding the topic in general? Is there any part of it that's not quite clear to you? And it's time to ask the questions. Okay, Vivian, you can go ahead.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. Thank you, Emeka, for the brilliant presentation. Well, I'm quite awed with your, like very current and trendy facts and figures. But I mean, I wanted to ask you, because the use case is a bit too specific. So based on your expertise and your experience, could you share with us, because this use case is too specific, for example, Azera, maybe there are other aspects. For example, now I'm aware that within the financial sector, educational sector, there are IoTs also that exist. Could you maybe speak to us about any form of maybe software that has been used and how we can also avoid vulnerabilities? Thank you very much. And by the way, Emeka, maybe we'll share your details, because at ASTEL, the African Center of Excellence, will be needing experts like you. Thank you very much.
Sorry? Okay, with regards to the question you asked, now, like I said, the Azera solution or the Azera software is majorly used within the health sector. Now, it doesn't really mean that you can't use it in other sectors. An example, you can use it in financial sector, you can use it in, I'm thinking of other sectors right now, because I know, okay, basically any sector that you would require things to be connected to remotely. Like you wouldn't say you have to just restrict it to only the health sector, because you need to connect your device remotely. Sometimes you are somewhere else in another country, and then there's a problem, but the person that can only solve that problem is somewhere else, and there's need for you to connect that to that device remotely, because that person is the only person that has that knowledge. So by virtue of that, you can actually find it in other sectors, as far as you need to render that service of connecting to your device remotely or IoT devices remotely, so you can use it more. But it's more common, it's prevalent in the health sector. Like that's where you find more of that. And that could the reason of that could be that the manufacturers of those IoT devices that are used in the health sector prefer using Azera. You understand? So that could be like the supply chain within that whole sector are always using Azera, because okay, let's say it's proprietary, or the vendors are okay, they prefer this particular software because it's compatible with their hardware and the rest of them. So you understand? So that could also be a reason why that impact is there. So if there's a vulnerability present there, it's going to affect that particular sector that has more of it present. So I guess that explains the question. And if there's anybody that wants to contribute on it, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Vivian, for the wonderful question. Does anyone else have a question? the chat box, do we? Okay, so concerning listing out vulnerabilities, Kola Wale listed quite a few, mentioning weak password detection, lack of regular patches and updates, and weak updates mechanism, insecure interfaces, insufficient data protection, poor IoT device management, the IoT skills gap. Amazing. So all these two can also be contributory factors to why IoT may not necessarily be the total option, or why they should have or they would have vulnerabilities. Okay, so at this point, no other person with a question? All right, Mr. Emeka, it means you did an absolutely awesome job with your presentation to the point where everyone is clear on what IoT is and the vulnerabilities. Okay, so in the absence of any questions now, if subsequently you should have any questions, kindly do well to reach us via email at info@cysec.ng, or you can send a message to our WhatsApp number, or you can also chat Mr. Emeka. He's on LinkedIn. He's sharing his LinkedIn profile, so you can actually connect with him, and then you can ask him any further questions you may have, or you can connect with us on LinkedIn as well and ask us any questions you may have. Okay, so at this point, a reminder once more, our hackathon is coming up in the month of May 25th and 26th. And so we are expecting to see you there virtually or physically. It's happening live in Abuja, and would of course be streaming online, recorded, so you can always make reference to the videos and everything. But I would really advise you make it there, because there's going to be a lot of fun activities, a lot of tech activities, a lot of insightful activities too. We have villages and the rest of them. Let me not spill it. Let me not spill the details. So just try to make it there. Then look out for our next webinar. Our webinars are every last Thursday of the month. So we'll have our next webinar at the last Thursday of the month of April, and the flyers will be going out as soon as possible. So you can actually join in with the next trending topic. All right, so at this point, we'll come to an end of this webinar session. Thank you very much for making it. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you for listening attentively. And if you have any questions, like I mentioned, you can either send it directly to Mr. Emeka, or you can send it to us at info@CYSEC. Our WhatsApp channel, you can send us a message, or any of our social media handles. So do well to follow us on social media, and we'll see you next month. Have a wonderful evening.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for your time.